My name is Colbert Williams. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a certified anger management facilitator. This is our third episode of PATHOS. Today we will be talking about interpersonal relationships. Before we get to the topic, I wanted to again go over our life mantra. And that mantra is insight, awareness, and exercising appropriate judgment. And if you take that mantra into thirds, the first part of the mantra, insight, is the journey of introspection and self-exploration. So keep that in mind as we explore the topic of interpersonal relationships. Now, there are three questions that are many times presented in talking about interpersonal relationships. And I've done many workshops over the years, and a portion of when I'm doing workshops, I have a section called Asking the Unasked Questions. And we're going to approach or broach three of these unasked questions. Number one, why do you want to be in an interpersonal relationship? Question two, what is your intent of being in an interpersonal relationship? And three, what is the purpose of the interpersonal relationship? Now, these are questions that are first asked of ourselves, and this kind of takes us back to the first part of that mantra, that journey of insight and self-exploration. So you ask yourselves these three questions. Why do I want to be in an interpersonal relationship? What is my intent of being in an interpersonal relationship? And what is the purpose? And over the years, many times people would say, well, Colbert, that's not very romantic. Well, romance is usually not found in the foundation of an interpersonal relationship. So that kind of leads us into the question, what is in the foundation of interpersonal relationship? Well, in most, if not all interpersonal relationships, there are some key dynamics and ingredients that are found. And I'm going to reference these dynamics so we can be really clear about them. Trust, open communication, respect, honesty, unconditional love, passion, cooperation, empathy, forgiveness, boundaries, clear and defined roles and expectations, mutual acceptance of values and beliefs, and last but not least, freedom. Now, when you reflect on these dynamics / ingredients, really it challenges and brings up many questions that we will explore later after we review some of the other dynamics and ingredients that will weaken, if not destroy, interpersonal relationships. Non-communication, betrayal, jealousy, disrespect, possessiveness, manipulation, and these together are what we define as controlling behaviors. Abuse, that's physical, sexual, and emotional. Being judgmental, sexual and emotional affairs, commonly known as, quote, cheating, unquote. Insecurity, low self-esteem, and no values and beliefs. Now, looking back at collectively at these dynamics, going back to the dynamics that are in the foundation of interpersonal relationships, compassion is one that I did not include. These are all very powerful, so you can't put one over the other, but clearly it raises the question that is very pervasive in today's society. Why are people cheating and having affairs in interpersonal relationships? Well, the question is, if one had open communication, if one was honest, if one had respect, unconditional love, compassion, all of those dynamics that we previously talked about, would there be cheating and affairs? And people say, well, no, think for a moment and reflect on that. If I'm having at the conceptual level the thought or interest in another person, be it emotionally, be it sexually, and I'm in a relationship, the first person I would go to would be my significant other. Why? Because our relationship is built upon these aforementioned dynamics. And this is the freedom. We talked about freedom. Imagine being so free in a relationship that you can talk to your significant other about anything. So, for the sake of discussion, Sally or John or Sue, whatever names you would prefer to use, that I'd met this person today and I was having these thoughts and feelings and I wanted to talk to you about that. Wow, great. We sit down and have a conversation. We openly communicate, and there's no judgment, there's no controlling behavior, there's no insecurities, and we can explore these thoughts and feelings from the conceptual level, not after the fact, well, by the way, I had an affair with so-and-so. That's an after the fact. So we're talking about something that's from the very conceptual, from the very beginning. And if one explores these dynamics, as we talked about, would affairs and cheating exist? And I would say they would not. I mean, if you think for a moment, if people were absolutely honest, open communication, trusted one another, had the utmost respect for one another, would cheating exist? And you can think for a moment and reflect on that. Now let's look at some of these other dynamics that will weaken and destroy interpersonal relationships. Now, all of them are equally powerful, but many times we hear a lot about jealousy. It's a very, very pervasive topic. And a colleague of mine that I've not had the chance to meet, but her name is Dr. Deborah Anapol, and she wrote a book called The 7 Natural Laws of Love, and also she wrote an abstract called Compersion. Abstracts are very short clinical writing, and this abstract is titled Compersion: Meditations on Jealousy as a Path to Unconditional Love. And Deborah talks about trust. Jealousy exists in the absence of trust. Now reflect on that for a moment, because I've had the opportunity to do a group with women, and usually when you develop a rapport and trust, then it's what I call by invitation only. They invite you into their world, and there was a consensus with this particular group of women that jealousy was a way that a man showed that he loved you. And it was almost a consensus that they said, well, Colbert, it's impossible not to be jealous, because that's how a man will show his love. And so we had a very open, non-judgmental discussion about jealousy. Another question: is it possible for jealousy not to exist in a person's personality, in your makeup? And I would argue that possibly it is, because if you had absolute trust with one another, jealousy would not exist, because a person that's jealous, where's that jealousy coming from? And I have a metaphor that I use of look in the mirror. It's not about the other person, maybe it's about me. And when it comes to interpersonal relationships, jealousy is like a cancer. It will destroy not only the individual, but it may destroy those around that individual. So clearly in interpersonal relationships, jealousy is one factor. Communication, now that's another red flag, as we would say. When there's non-communication in interpersonal relationships, something is wrong. So these are clear indicators of when people start talking, why is that? And from our previous episodes, we talked about fears, and these fears are many. When there's a communication break, it would be very clear that something's going on in this relationship. So as we continue on in our episodes, we may come back to some of these particular topics. But until then, and until we meet again, I wish all of you peace, unconditional love, and happiness.
If you are experiencing issues with today's topic and need professional guidance, contact us at 866-726-7881 or through our website, www.enlcinc.com.